You're listening to The Employer's Emphasis, Episode 2. I'm your host, Adam Varahachikol with Employers, America's small business insurance specialist. If you like our podcast, please be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher, and Spotify. And that way you can get notified every time a new episode is uploaded. Last time was our very first episode where we spoke with Employers Holdings Inc. President and CEO Doug Dirks, and we talked about a number of things like Employers being a national company, the history of the company, the evolution of the company, the insurance industry as a whole, and its future. It's such a great listen to kick off our podcast. Employers is committed to helping small businesses operate a safer, more efficient workplace. So in this episode, we're giving you, the listener, a restaurant owner's guide to workers' compensation insurance. Very important information that every restaurant owner needs to know. But before we get to that, we want to introduce you to our friends at California Restaurant Association. They're here to improve the business environment for restaurants in the Golden State. CRA is the uniting force of the restaurant industry that brings together the community. They impact legislation, cultivate relationships, and provide valuable resources to help restaurant owners run their business. And by the way, Employers is the exclusive workers' compensation insurance provider of the California Restaurant Association, and Employers provides eligible members of CRA with a 5% discount on their workers' compensation insurance policies. To learn more about California Restaurant Association, head to their website at calrest.org. That's CALREST.org. Now, without further ado, here's a restaurant owner's guide to workers' compensation insurance. The relaxed, comfortable atmosphere restaurant patrons enjoy in the dining room bears little resemblance to the fast-paced, often stressed-out world in the back of the house. The frenetic pace behind the scenes in the kitchen, storage areas, and loading docks creates an environment where injuries can easily occur. According to the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration's most recent data, there were 197,400 non-fatal occupational injuries and illnesses in restaurants and other eating places in 2017. More than 50,000 of those incidents required missed days from work. Common restaurant employee injuries include cuts from knife use, kitchen equipment, and damaged tableware, burns from hot liquids, chemicals, plates, stoves, ovens or fryers, slips and falls due to wet or otherwise slippery floors, strains from lifting and carrying objects, and auto accidents during delivery and catering. These injuries can leave a restaurant short-staffed, costing the owner time and, without insurance, out-of-pocket money for medical exams and treatments. This adds unwanted, unexpected, and unnecessary costs to the bottom line of an already tough-to-run small business. Workers' comp insurance for small business can help protect restaurant owners and employees from incurring these costs and provide loss control solutions to avoid accidents and promote a positive safety culture. So how does workers' compensation work? Well, owning and running a restaurant without offering workers' compensation insurance coverage is prohibited in all states except Texas. Small business restaurant owners should familiarize themselves with state regulations where they operate regarding workers' compensation. Regardless of the regulatory requirement, having workers' compensation insurance is always a smart business move because it protects restaurant owners from costly liabilities. As an added benefit, restaurant owners can generally deduct their workers' compensation on their federal taxes. Workers' compensation insurance covers medical expenses, physical therapy expenses, and lost wages for employees who get sick or injured through the course of their work duties. Benefits can also include compensation for economic loss past and future, and benefits payable to the dependents of workers who lose their life in the course of employment. It usually does not cover damages for pain and suffering or punitive damages for employer negligence. In determining the premium, restaurant owners contact insurance agents or workers' compensation insurance carriers who then review the business and its locations to establish a premium for coverage. Premium costs will vary by business and are determined by factors including payroll, location, classification, experience rating, and rates set by the state where the business is located. To ensure that employers are properly covered, workers' compensation insurance carriers can use different audit types to validate and adjust premiums for restaurant policyholders. For example, employers utilizes several audit methods. Number 1. Online premium audit. Policyholders can quickly and easily submit their premium audits online using an intuitive and user-friendly interface which guides them through the premium audit process. Additionally, policyholders can easily and securely upload all requested documents online and can check the status of their premium audits 24/7. Number 2. Voluntary audit. Policyholders receive a mailed audit form to complete and return through mail, email, or fax. The form includes instructions, lists the required information, forms to fill out, and explains our non-compliance policy. The business owner fills out the forms and returns the voluntary audit materials within 15 days. Number 3. Remote physical audit. Policyholder receives a letter requesting payroll records, such as 941s, state unemployment forms, and a payroll journal. Once the business owner submits the requested documentation, a representative from the premium audit team will contact the policyholder to discuss payroll information and business operations. Number 4. On-site physical audit. Policyholder receives a letter to request payroll records such as 941s, state unemployment forms, and a payroll journal. Once the business owner submits the requested documentation, a representative from the premium audit team will contact the policyholder to schedule a time and date to visit the restaurant locations to conduct the audit. Here's some information for making the claim. When a restaurant employee gets injured on the job, generally that worker must inform the restaurant owner and the restaurant's workers' compensation insurance provider about the injury and file a formal workers' compensation claim. If the injury is serious or life-threatening, the employer should seek immediate emergency medical help for the employee. For less dire injuries, the worker should review the workers' compensation poster displayed in the workplace by the employer, which directs employees on how to file a claim and receive medical care if needed. States regulate the amount of time after an injury that the worker must seek medical attention, and if treatment must be received by an approved doctor, both of which vary by state. When it comes to loss control, of course, it's best to try to prevent accidents from happening. That's why most workers' compensation insurance providers also provide loss control services to help restaurant owners manage risk, improve the safety culture, and create safer work environments through analysis to evaluate operations and make recommendations for hazard control, management, supervisory, and employee education programs to assist in reinforcing best health and safety practices, and sample employee safety presentations and training. Restaurant owners should create a positive culture of safety where every employee is responsible for maintaining a safe work environment. It begins with an authentic and visible commitment from management that makes workplace safety a strategic imperative across the organization, and the willingness to invest in the business's most important assets, its people. That includes implementing safety training programs and resources that address injury and illness prevention, protective equipment, ergonomics, and more. For restaurants, employers recommend 5 strategies to help restaurant owners reduce on-the-job injuries or illnesses. Number 1. Identify potential problem areas. The first step to reducing the chance of workplace injuries is to identify the potential hazards. To reduce slips and falls, make sure floors are clear of liquids or grease, and require employees to wear closed-toe shoes with slip-resistant soles. To avoid burns, enforce the use of personal protective equipment, PPE, including safety gloves, mitts, and aprons. To reduce knife injuries, make sure all workers understand safe knife handling techniques, keep knives sharpened, and wear cut-resistant safety gloves on the non-knife hand. Require employees to wear personal protective equipment when handling hazardous cleaners and disinfectants. Encourage employees to take breaks to get off their feet and to follow proper lifting techniques to avoid back injuries. Number 2. Provide training for all employees. Restaurant safety and health plans apply to all restaurant employees. Everyone should receive training on how to handle equipment safely and how to prevent injuries to themselves and others. Review comprehensive safety procedures that address the problem areas identified during the risk management analysis. The best training is incorporated into operational training, so employees are not only learning how to do their jobs, they're learning how to do their jobs safely. Number 3, keep the restaurant clean and organized. Keeping the restaurant clean and clutter-free is the easiest way to help reduce the likelihood of a workplace accident, such as a slip, trip, or fall. Make sure equipment is properly stored when not in use. Stock rooms should be organized and clutter-free. Keep walkways and entryways cleared of debris, and regularly sweep, mop, or vacuum floors. Pay special attention to areas in front of grills and fryers, and implement a regular degreasing routine. Number 4. Maintain restaurant equipment. Equipment such as dishwashers, refrigerators, ovens, slicers, blenders, and coffee makers must be regularly serviced, well maintained, and have guards in place to help prevent employee injuries. And number 5, make sure to carry the appropriate licenses and insurance. Restaurant owners are required to carry certain credentials, such as a business license and permits for food service, and in some cases, alcohol. Workers' compensation insurance coverage is an important element of a restaurant's compliance and successful operations. Fostering safe restaurant working environments can help prevent worker injuries and keep restaurant owners' workers' compensation insurance premiums lower. The information provided is intended to provide a general overview. This information is not legal advice and should not be relied on as such. Employers make no warranties for the accuracy, adequacy, or completeness of the information provided, and will not be responsible for any action taken based on the information contained herein. So if you have legal questions or need legal advice, please consult an attorney. And with that, I want to thank you for listening to The Employer's Emphasis. Stay tuned for what's next on the podcast. Before we go, be sure to head to our website at employers.com, where you can find more small business tips, resources, and request a workers' compensation insurance quote. Also, follow Employers on social media on Facebook by searching Employers, America's Small Business Insurance Specialist. We're on Twitter and Instagram at the handle at Employers_INS. Search Employers on LinkedIn. And on YouTube, our channel is at Employers Video, all one word. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Adam Vara Hachikol with The Employer's Emphasis, and we'll catch you next time.